All right, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for our April 2023 Shop Owner Roundtable. We've got some great guests. Chris O'Brien, our Chief Operating Officer, here with me. Before we get started, I think everybody can see the slide here. We'll give one initial plug for our Diesel Connect conference coming up here in June. I promise we're not doing the old bait and switch trying to entice you to register. We actually are sold out right now, but we're running a wait list. So if you want to join our wait list, please go to dieselconnectshow.com and register. Anytime we have any dropouts, we'll be able to add some new folks. Our typical disclaimer, so we'll do our best to have a good conversation around the experience that everyone has had, but we always want to make sure that you keep in mind we're not giving any advice. You need to make sure you seek out your own advice by someone who knows your own personal situation. So with that, we mentioned Chris O'Brien is here with us as always. We wanted to introduce Jennifer Calloway. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. And Henry Uribe. We will do quick intros for each of you, and then we'll go ahead and get started. So Jennifer, you want to give us a little bit of background on yourself and Inland Empire Fleet Maintenance?
Sure. So I've been in the transportation industry since I was 21 years old. Only one in my family, so kind of the black sheep, if you will. Started out as a driver, ended up dispatching and managing and shop managing. And in 2018, my not at the time husband, but now husband, and I left the corporate world. And in 2019, we kind of started essentially from scratch. The business opened the doors in July, made it through COVID, and we've doubled every year this far. So we're hoping to keep the trend. So still baby, still growing, but we're just trying to build that small business that takes care of its people and not its corporation or its customers. We take care of the people take care of the customers.
That's great. Yeah, coming up on 4 years then, right? Over this summer.
Yeah.
No, that's a great story. I think that everybody will learn a lot from some of your perspective. So Thank you very much for joining us today. And Henry, Onsite, I know you're local here to Phoenix, so we appreciate you driving in.
Yeah, thank you.
Maybe give everybody a little background on yourself and Onsite.
Yeah, I've been in, I was a tech for, I've been in the industry really technically, I was just writing it down right now, 25 years. I'm considered an old guy now in the industry, right?
You got some gray.
Yeah, when you were young, you're like, I got to ask this guy that question. I guess now I'm that guy, right? But been in the industry for 25 years. I started from, I worked in the automotive maybe for about a year or two, and then I went into heavy truck. Started working for various dealerships. Mainly that's my career. I started my career in the dealerships. I worked for about 4 different brands. I got out of the industry, went into heavy equipment. Became a fleet manager, worked for CAT for a couple dealerships for a while, and then started my own business in 2008, or 2006, I'm sorry. And then 2008 happened, and there were some lessons learned there. Went out of business in 2008 and started back up in 11, and then focused more on trucks and transportation. It's just more reliable, more consistent, and we've been in business since 11. Sold our shop in California we had. Built up a 9 shop to about 13, 14 techs in Ontario. Sold it, moved to Texas, did a couple acquisitions, and got those going. And then we have a couple shops now in Texas, and that's what we got going on right now.
Great. Well, we appreciate you both being here. I think the perspective that you each have will be valuable for everybody. And we, like we said, have a lot of questions, a couple of themes that we talked about initially. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing here, and we can get full screen on all the faces. So I'll kick off the first question because it's the most obvious. This must have been a quarter of the respondents that gave us questions had some flavor of, let's talk about labor. Technician shortage, how do we motivate people? How do we retain people? How do we develop people? So Henry, maybe we can start with you and just offer some perspective or your perspective on where we are as an industry from a labor perspective.
Well, as an industry, man, that's a rabbit hole, man.
Yeah.
And a lot of these kids, like we talked the other day, have been sold this, hey, you got to go to college. So, some of these kids coming out of college, coming out of high school, they all want to go to college. They were told that story. They never knew that you can make a really good living, turning wrenches, owning your own shop, being a service writer, manager. So we kind of have to start with that, is that the culture was sold this false dream that everybody's going to fit in one box. So there's a lot of kids that, like our interest in our labor, I look at the industry as in like let's just say technicians, for example, versus service writers. A lot of the guys that are working for other companies, bigger companies normally, they lack culture. That's one of the things I think that's a little that's very important to my company is we have really good culture. Mm-hmm. So our turnover is not as bad, really. It's pretty good, and then we get a lot of recruitment from that. The industry is kind of lost that. The big companies lost that. They don't have that personal touch, right? They don't have that connection with the employee. They don't have the connection with the customer. So I think we kind of ran away with the industry with everything wants to be with no personal touch, right? So there's a reason why I think the bigger companies are kind of struggling with labor is because they don't have the personal touch. They don't have the connection with their employees. And there's so much work for everybody, though, for them to grasp. But the tough part that I think everybody is grasping is what we're talking here is the labor, right? Like, how do we get these technicians, right? Mm-hmm. So do you want to get into that, or you want to?
Yeah, I mean, maybe just we move to Jennifer for just a minute and just talk about your general view of the labor situation in the market, and then we can get into some specifics around. I think that everyone wants to talk about recruiting and hear some ideas.
So I think we're on the same page about company culture. I mean, it all comes down to the company culture, and especially I'm probably I'd say a third of the size of the shop he is. I'm a very small shop, and with that many people, when you've only got 6 people right there, one person can turn the whole thing upside down. Mm-hmm. So it's really about building, a good company culture, and you want them to enjoy coming to work, and you want them to have good reasons for coming to work. The good thing about mechanics is that unfortunately they live paycheck to paycheck for the most part. So they really need their jobs, but they shouldn't feel like, it's a place that's like, oh God, I gotta come in and I gotta do this and I gotta do that. They should want to come to work, yeah. And they should want to be happy. I've got a bunch of American Idols in my shop. They're all singing and to their own stuff. And
American Idols, like as in the singers.
Like I got one guy. One of these days, I'm going to send him there. I mean, he just belts it out every day. And if they're singing or or if they're not, if they're paying attention, if they're singing to the truck or they're focused on the truck, they're focused on what they're doing, and they're not thinking about too much else. So, just how you treat your people. No employee numbers. Everybody's first name. Doors always open. Hey, you got a problem? Bring it to the table. Help me fix the problem. Everybody that comes into my company has a skill set to bring, and so everybody has something to bring to the table. So we don't have a box that everybody has to get in. It's what you bring something, and everybody's opinions and views are heard, and and just be able to do stuff as a group. We try to be like a small family, and so we do things outside of the the business just to I don't know if you want to call it team building or what. I don't know if going to a baseball game is team building, but we're all doing it together, So, and all enjoying it together. Maybe not everybody's voting for the same team, but we're doing it as a group. So I think that's how you treat your people is really important.
Yeah, with a workforce that's small, when you get one person in there that's not a good fit,
yeah,
kind of bring the whole group down.
And you'll in a group that small with people that you entrust to help you make those decisions, and you can tell right off the bat when something's off.
Yeah.
Everybody kind of it's like kind of shies away, goes off in different directions, and you still sense it right away.
Yeah.
If you're really in tune with the people that you have, then yeah. And so you work hard to keep that, and you don't want to, and you try to work with people, and if they fit, they fit. So in one way, our box is it do you fit into the company culture, or do you want to wreck the company culture? If you want to wreck the company culture, then you got to get out of our sandbox.
Yeah.
So.
And obviously a bigger sandbox, Henry, but
a lot more complex as you guys have, right? When you get a lot more employees in different states. things are a lot more complex. You become a therapist, you know. but it's not a bad thing. I mean, we just have to be
That's better
compassionate.
than becoming a daycare.
Yeah, exactly. Don't get me wrong, and that's the other thing. Talking about labor shortages is sometimes that, you know, when I grew up in the industry, it was like, hey, if you ask for a tool 3 times, you need to buy it. You know, if you have a question, you got to be honest with yourself to say, man, I don't know how to do this. You try first, and then you go talk to the lead guy or say, hey, can you give me a hand? Some of that, some other shops don't run like that. So when they come to you, you know, sometimes you're like, whoa, what are you doing? Like, it's kind of alarming at times because you're like, the way you run your business, you think everybody runs their business that way. So when you hire people or bring people on, they're completely backwards, right? Or some people run their business differently than I do. So they come in here with bad habits sometimes, right? And sometimes you gotta kind of let some of those things go, right? Some of those things you don't, in other words, don't cry over spilled milk. There's not everybody that's gonna come in your door is gonna be perfect, right? That's the part when you scale and you have a lot of people is that you're gonna have to overlook a little bit of some stuff, right? Because you wish everybody's on the same level, right? Like everybody's gonna, you know, be there on time. Everybody's gonna do, you know, their stories. You're not gonna have to chase nobody. It does not work that way.
That's true.
It's a false narrative.
It's funny you say that. There's these sayings of we're always looking for A players. We got to get some A players, and I always say I think the B's and the C's run the world. I think there's a few A's, and like the world is running on B's and C's because if you don't have some sort of tolerance and the bar is too high, either no one might not want to work for you or they don't exist.
Yeah, they have to fit. You know, they have to be the right fit for the right job. But at the same time, you know, there's those kinds of people, and then there's just kind of people that are just kind of poisonous. And so you just have you have to choose, like you said, you have to choose your battles, and you have to find the right fit, and you have to know when to cut your losses, and you also have to know when to pick your battles. It's a juggling act, really. Yeah. So.
And so I know we want to talk about recruiting, but all these things you're talking about, someone who's a good fit, right? What are some of the interview techniques? You know, how do we'd rather identify someone's not a good fit in the interview process than wait till we get them on board a couple weeks later, realize we got to get them out. Anything unique you're doing? I mean, I'd love to hear what you're doing, Jennifer, around behavioral assessments. And
So we use a company, they're called Job Behaviors, and it's just one B in the behavior. It's Job Behaviors. The job and the behavior share the B. Yeah. I guess it took me a while to find them because of that. So they do. It's a diesel mechanic assessment, and I've taken it. I make my service writers take it because it's not necessarily about the skill of being a diesel mechanic, but about having the behaviors of being a good diesel mechanic, which in general are, you know, good behavioral assets to have for anybody to excel at, you know. I mean, like right down to the basics, you know. Are you organized in your work area? Things like that. You know, it mixes in some, you know, some skill set with it. But so we use that, and we pre-screen with that, and then if it's just a 1 to 5 assessment. We don't see how it, you know, why they scored a 1 or why they scored a 5, and then you just, you know, you kind of. So I've hired everybody. I've hired 1 stars, 2 stars, 3 stars, 4 stars. I've hired them all just to see.
See what happens?
Yeah, just to see what, you know.
So is it real? Does it work? Is there?
I believe it does. Yes.
Okay.
So I've hired 1 stars and fired all of them.
Oh, so, all right.
And
so I'm disorganized, combative, whatever. Like.
Well, yeah. It's a myriad of things. So when you kind of stay in the middle of the range, so the higher end guys, they tend to be really good at adapting, and sometimes they tend to be overthinkers they will overthink too much, but they have the skill set and the process, and they're neat and they're organized. And you know, so we have a myriad of between 3 and 5 stars, and you know but we use that before we even talk to them. Because sometimes you can talk to somebody after they have their assessment, and you know sometimes you can find a likability to somebody, and you'll go like, and that's usually why I've hired somebody on the lower side of the assessment was, we talk to them, and it's like you get a likability factor to them, and then you know and you know people can interview really well and cover up their pitfalls. but then they'll come right out as soon as you hire them and you put them to work. You'll figure, you'll keep that in your mind. Okay, what scored that, and then you watch and you'll see it. It's evident. So it's not my only tool, but it is a helpful tool for me. And then I have a recruiting service that does all of the initial when they apply, just the background, kind of, weed them out a little bit.
Okay.
So that's what I do. I mean, just because we're small, but we're super busy. So everybody, it's all hands on deck. I mean, when I'm at work every day, I'm under a truck at least one time. So helping somebody.
Yeah.
So, or scrubbing the toilets. So we all work together really tight knit. So I think that recruiting is very important, and I think the process is very important. I just, for me, it's not my strong suit. So I have things in place to help me with the initial process until they get to us, and then we talk to them and bring them in and assess them ourselves, and then decide whether yeah or no. So.
Interesting. Henry, anything on your side that's unique or do you think is insightful for people to think about when they're screening candidates?
I think the most important part is to remember these people have emotions, right? When you're screening somebody, you're talking to somebody, you got to remember that, number one, that they're supporting their family where they're working at. They're obviously responding to you, or they're looking for a job because there's a problem. So I try to get to that reason of why. What's their why they want to switch a job? What's their why they're looking at me? What is it that they don't have that their company don't offer that I can offer right off the bat? See, I try to build a strategy to where, first thing, if I'm interviewing, hey, how you doing? Chris, what's going on? Oh, not much, man. How's your family? Yada, yada, yada. So, hey, we got an opportunity for you in Phoenix or in Texas, whichever. So tell me a little bit about yourself, man. What are you into, man? You fishing? I don't even talk about skills. I go in right into, I'm trying to get a feel for the person. Mm-hmm. So, what do you do? You do go fishing, you ride side by sides, you go shooting, you go hunting. What's your advice, right? What is it? He's like, oh, I'm a family guy. I love spending time with my kids. Boom. This guy doesn't want to work late all the time, right? Mm-hmm. That's number one. So, hey, how's your wife? Yeah, exactly. How's your wife? What does your wife do for a living? Well, she's a stay-at-home wife. So I'm thinking, boom, she's gonna want that dude on Saturdays and Sundays because she's with the kids all day long. So she's gonna be crazy, going around with all the kids all day long. So she wants adult conversation after 5. She wants to hang out with the kids on the weekend. So I start pinpointing while I'm talking to somebody what their triggers are, and then I make my plan towards that. Right? I'm like, hey, so what do you make an hour over there? Oh, I make so and so. Oh, dude, this is what we pay our guys. Oh, wow, that's amazing. So you got to come down and meet the guys. I don't even say come and hang out or do an interview.
Oh, you want them to meet the actual crew?
Yes, I go come down here and get a feel for because I know that when you're switching jobs, we can't deny there's energy, right? You walk into a room, it feels heavy, it feels light, it feels happy, it feels depressed. You feel that energy. Everybody feels it. So I'm like, hey, come down and come and meet the guys. I got a bunch of comedians or this and that, and just kind of, get him comfortable so he can take that step to want to go out of his comfort zone because he's comfortable right now at his job, more than likely, right? So I got to get him to be uncomfortable or feel comfortable coming over to us. And then he comes over. Once he's there, it's a done deal. We're going to close the deal. So we look at also as strategy as in like sales, right? You're trying to sell a job to a customer. Hey, it's a $10,000 job. Hey, these parts are better than these parts, and you're trying to sell your company to somebody else. So in order for them to make a decision, especially that affects their family, their wife, you also gotta. I've done this too in Texas. Went out there. I have one of the acquisitions we did. I went out and I took out the guy and his wife on a dinner. A couple $100 dinner. Took him out to dinner. And say, hey, let's just meet. I knew that he had the skills. And I said, hey, man, this guy's going to be a getter. I got to go get it. And big companies ain't going to do that. Yeah. They're not going to. They want to put everything through a system and say, okay, these guys are the ones that qualify. And not to knock on it, but you have to be more personable, especially if you're trying to scale fast. Everybody has a different skill, a different plan, right? Like, I want to keep my shop, and this is it. Some people want to say, I just want to have 2 shops. Some people want to have multiple shops. So it depends on how your drive is on getting your people, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, so it's nice to hear you talk about figuring out what people's motivations are. Right? I mean, I might respond or be looking for something different than Chris, looking for something different than Jennifer.
Vacation.
Right? Are you seeing anything
Insurance.
unique? Like, is there, I think historically we'd all say, well, whoever's going to pay the most, that's where I'm going to go work. I don't think that's the case anymore.
No.
Right? We're seeing it in software, right? That it's not just about pay. Can you all talk a little bit about what people look for?
They want, most people want, the Monday through Friday. Some people are looking for, the alternative schedules. Some people, just want to know that even if you're a mobile company, do I have to get out of my bed at night, and go, go do a road call?
They don't want to.
They don't want to do it. They don't want to do it, and so we've kind of catered to more of that environment. We don't do open road calls, to non-customers. If a customer calls us in the middle of the night and they need help, I'm on the phone first, and then I determine, what's going to be the best use of the customer's time and money to get them back up and running. Because it may not necessarily be just to yank somebody out of bed in the middle of the night and send them out there only to have them towed anyway. So, finding the balance in the employees, they have lives outside of, I'm in 24/7. I'm invested in what I'm doing, because at the end of the day, the decisions come down. If I make the wrong decision, it's on me. If I make the right decision, it's on me. If I make any decision, it's on me. And so I'm invested. And I have people that, that feel invested. I make, how I make them a part of it. But at the end of the day, when they clock out and they go home, Inland Empire Fleet Maintenance is, it'll be there the next morning. Most people don't go home thinking about their job the way business owners go home and think about their business. So, so at the end of the day, ultimately on them, it's what they can go home to, and, what stresses they don't have to take home with them, and what worries they don't have to take home with them, and that kind of thing. And if they're not worried about their job and they're happy about it, then, they're going to be happy to come to work the next day. So you just have, like you said, you have to find out, like Henry said, what motivates people, because no two people are motivated in the same way. Yeah. So
what's interesting is I didn't realize the impact of the on-call situation until my brother put it in perspective. I was trying to go out riding with him. I was like, oh, let's go riding this weekend. He's like, I'm on call. I was like, well, yeah, but so what? And he's like, no, you don't understand. I'm on call. And I said, well, what does that mean? He goes, I can't drink. I can't stay out too late. I got to rest. I'm on call. And I said, you can't go to the desert in your own town? Let's go riding. He goes,
he has a response time.
Yeah, he has a response time. He had like 2 hours to have everything ready to go. And so I was just I was like, your whole weekend is shot. And he goes, I know, I hate it. And I was like, my goodness, can you imagine like the perspective of his weekend was shot and it wasn't even worth the money. But it was his tour, right? They rotated schedules.
Yeah.
And I had no idea the impact. So then we finagled a way to go ride and be close to town. And then I would take his stuff, and it was like, whoa. Because I used to just give him flack. It's no big deal. They're probably not going to call you. But I had no idea the total impact.
Yeah. It's that 1% chance that, that something will happen.
To be ready.
And that's and that's the same thing with even like on my fire department, on my volunteer fire department side, is that when we're in town, we're expected to respond. And so there's always that, and I understand that feeling because I have it all the time. And it's and I'm doing it just for the love of my community, not because it's paying me well or anything like that. It's paying me minimum wage. So, but I don't get anything to be on call. But I'm always on call when I'm in town. So there's always that nagging feeling, and it's not something that I would want my employees to have all the time. Yeah. So it's not a comfortable feeling.
And that's exactly how, like, we don't do on calls. I don't do after hours. I work from maybe 7 to 6. That's it. We don't do weekends, only for maybe one fleet. We rotate, but I don't do Sundays. I don't do after calls. To me, my philosophy is it's not worth it to have a guy on the side of the road. We had a couple close calls.
It's dangerous too, yeah.
It's not worth it. I don't care. I don't need an extra car or an extra, T-shirt or whatever that other money's going to buy me. It's not worth it. You know, so the business, like, go back to the labor, you know, you had, you know, let's say 1,000 technicians, right? And then all of a sudden, some of those guys said, hey, I'm going to go be a lawyer. I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go work in a warehouse. So now we have 600 technicians, right? It shrunk, right? I'm just using a number. And then now guys are like, hey, I want to, you know, you have 1,000 openings, 600 technicians. Now they're like, you know what? I don't want to work weekends. I don't want to be on call. I'm going to go work for this guy Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. Psh, I don't have to worry about nothing. I got my weekends off. I got all these holidays off. So now all that, the people that used to work and cover those hours, it's over. Like they don't want to do it. So the labor market has shrunk, not the market, but the labor itself has shrunk. So now it's like a commodity, right? Like you got to pay real well, right? The least you have of something, it's worth more, right? Mm-hmm. You know, so that's kind of where you're at. You got to pay your technicians real well. A good technician is going to save you a lot of money. You know, he's going to make you a lot of money. I mean, technicians, I was taught through a different coaching company, technicians are free. You know what I mean? Because they're going to bring, if you have the work, they're going to bring you revenue.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Yes.
They pay for themselves. So some people look at it like, oh, I got an extra, you know, the labor is extra payroll. But if you have the work, they're free. They're going to generate more sales. So you're going to make more money.
That's what they should be doing.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right,
Just
exactly.
keeping them busy and keeping them on the work. You have those systems in place.
If you have the workload, you know, and if you have a lot of workload, it's because you have good technicians that are finding you a lot of work, because, I mean, that's ultimately how it works, you know.
To her point, you know, you take care of them, they take care of you, right? And but here's a freebie, "Skin in the Game" by I'm gonna see if I can say it right, Nassim Nicholas Taleb. I guess that's how you say it. It's a book called "Skin in the Game" that I read quite a few years ago, and it really made me think of like, wow, you know, there's like, you know, we as business owners, we look at it like, hey, what am I getting out of this, right? Or I got to get this commitment to this customer, right? Sometimes we got to remember, to her point again, is that, you know, they got personal lives, they got kids, they got family. You know, what's their goals? Sometimes you got to help them achieve their goals, and you guys achieve your goals together. Yeah. I mean, so it's kind of like, I think it's I heard this that they have a philosophy that Jewish people say, hey, every time you make a millionaire, you got to make like 5 or 6 millionaires at the same time with you that'll help you get there. You know, it's the same thing concept with your team, right? If you have a good team, you pay your team real well, you know, and you're making money and they're making money. You know, you're having some time off, they're having some time off. Mm-hmm. It's all about skin in the game. So what's their driver? What's their, you know, does a wife want a new car? You know, that's the connection that you guys need to have and your managers need to have with your people, is like, what drives your employees, and not just be like a machine, you know? You got to have that personal touch. So these people, you know, say, hey, what's going on? How was your soccer game with your kid? Hey, how was your wife? But genuinely care, you know, not just be lip service. Like, you really got to care and love people, you know, to do this kind of business.
Yeah. You've brought up pay a couple times. There's been a couple of questions around this. Just basically, how do you consider comp adjustments? Do you typically look at ability or years of experience or tenure, or is it just a judgment call, tech by tech, when either you're hiring them or you're looking at raises?
So in California, we have rules about these things.
Of course you do.
Yeah, like overtime after 8, double
that's
time
why
after
I
12.
No rules in Texas. Right?
Hey, come on down.
So scales have to be published, and you have to kind of have, you can't, if you set precedent, you set precedent. You can't try one thing and go, you know what, no, we're not going to do it for this guy. So everything has to be
It's
set.
interesting you said precedent, because that is a hot topic. Yeah.
Setting precedent in California is a big deal.
It's a really big deal.
On everything.
It's a big deal even in legal, right? Or even labor and stuff.
So we have, you know, like we were talking about last night, you know, you have your A techs, your B techs, and your C techs, and everybody has different scales. So we have a scale and a pay range, and then, you know, it's kind of structured kind of like how dealerships are. They have, you know, structured sets, you know, well, if you meet these qualifications, then you do this. And so in a independent truck shop, you kind of have to have, you know, different structures, because you're going to work on a multitude, or at least we do, work on a multitude and a variety of different types of motors, manufacturers, equipment, all sorts of stuff. So, and even my most experienced, who's now my shop manager, we just promoted him to a shop manager, but he's only in his low 50s, and he's probably got the experience. He's probably got 60 years of mechanic experience, because the guy used to actually work 2 full-time jobs.
Okay.
So he has lots of experience behind his belt. He's put a lot of time in, and even he says, "Gosh, I've never seen that." Or in our shop, because we pride ourselves on taking something, looking at it, and going, "Can we do this? Is it going to kill us? Would it be worth killing us to get the business to do this?" So we have done some pretty interesting things in our shop to, the variety is there. So, so when we look at pay scales, we go, okay, well, what's the variety of experience this guy has? And, how far inside of an engine has he been? Or, what's his drivetrain experience? And we try to, and you try to kind of just group the experience with what classification we would say, well, this guy would fit into this scale, or that guy would fit into this scale.
So that's more about ability than necessarily how many years they've done it.
Yeah, so it's about what they have experienced and the time that they have been doing it, and how many years they've been doing it will factor into that alone anyway. Just because if they've only been doing it 2 years and they've only worked on one type of motor, well, that's going to kind of draw them down anyway, because they only have a limited amount of experience. So in our case, the wider variety of experience you have, how's your diagnostic skills? And sometimes you can't really, sometimes you don't actually get the result of that out of an interview of like how experienced a person really is. They may have 10 years of working, but it's like really how much experience did they get out of those 10 years? And so you really don't know until you get them in there and you see how they perform.
Yeah.
It'd be really cool if there was like the ultimate mechanic test, to really test a person's ability, like to say, okay, you could do that, but really you have, like you say, you have to invest in the person, you have to find a connection with that person. They have to find a connection with you and your company, and then you take a chance on them, and then the first 30 days is, how fast do they onboard? Because we don't have, we onboard, and then it's how fast do they onboard, and how fast do they get along, and how do they take on new challenges? Because I guarantee you, there's going to be something brand new that they've never done in our shop, because there has been for everybody. So, yeah. So
interesting.
You just have to take a chance and see how they do.
Yeah. So without the regulations of California, any
no
competing...
hablo regulations, man.
Don't make me jealous right now.
Yeah, right.
Well, I look at it like this. Number one, we obviously take in consideration and look at the resume, how many years of experience they have. But I actually, when I interview, the interview process, I break down the truck and say, okay, cool. So let's start with this. Do you know what a S-cam is? Yeah. What does it do? It does this, that, the other. Okay, cool. How many does the truck have? Well, it depends on if it's a 2-axle or 3-axle. Okay, cool. So then I'm knowing that this guy's on it. I ask, okay, cool. If I told you, hey, go take the radiator out of Peterbilt 379, would you do it? He's all day long. What about Cascadia? Yeah, I shouldn't be doing it. No problem. You ever done a Volvo? Never done it, but dude, I'm down to do it. Okay, cool. You ever done a transmission? Yeah. Automatic? Yeah, I have. How many times? Maybe 20 times. Okay, cool. What about 10-speed? Oh, shoot, I've done a ton of those. So when I'm in the interview process, I'm asking
That's a well-experienced guy he's talking about.
Yeah, so I'm asking all these questions. Like, okay, how many starters have you done in your career? Oh, my God, 150. Oh, you ever done a valve cover gasket? Yeah, I've done a valve cover. You ever done injectors? I helped somebody done them. So now I'm knowing that this guy doesn't have worked inside the engine compartment, right? Go. I go, okay, so now I know, okay, cool, there's nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? So the guy can you reseal the oil pan? Yes. All right, have you ever done a front cover? No, I haven't. So now I'm like, okay, because this guy doesn't work internal. So now I'm getting an idea of what this guy's worth, right? On that end. Then I ask, okay, transmissions. You ever done a clutch? Yeah. Okay, on let's just say an Eaton 10-speed. How many parts do you need to put the clutch? If you order your parts, what parts would you ask the parts guy to get you?
There you go.
Well,
getting real
a
here.
clutch.
He's digging deep.
Yeah, and then I get
this is
into
a real skill.
I also ask, okay, cool. Let's pretend there's a truck in front of us, right? And let's just say I give you the truck, you're assigned to it. All right, walk me through step by step on how you're going to do this job. What are you going to do first?
Those are-
I'm going to drain the oil. I'm going to do this. I'm going to get my jack stands. So then I'm looking for them because I'm visualizing. And any good technician has photographic memory. Any good technician can see it kind of like just right now you're looking away, looking at something else. You're imagining something else. They have that too. A good technician has that. They're like, you know what? It goes here. It goes, oh, yeah. It goes behind this, whatever it is, right? So I look for those things. That's why I interview. So right off the bat, and that's a hard skill to teach.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because if you know, you know. If you don't know, you don't know.
Right.
So those are the things that I do to interview my guys. So then we have more of, okay, I know where this guy's at skill level. I'm going to offer you this, right? I know what they're making because I already talked to them on the phone and I got their number already. This is all a negotiation.
Yeah.
It's a negotiation.
Yep.
It's interesting, the example you just used. When I first met Jacob, the founder of Full Bay, he was asking me some questions very similar to that. And then he said, what if you had to a building, and this building that we're in right now was just an old produce house. He said, well, what if we bought that and we wanted to rehab it? What would you do? I was like, okay, because he was wanting to see if I knew how I would approach solving that problem. And then I did exactly what you said. I just started systematically thinking about it. And I said, well, this is a big project. Do you mind if I use that whiteboard? And then I just started drawing and asking questions and then just building out this plan to rehab this building. But it was part of an interview. And he goes, okay, we're done. It's enough. But it was just to see the process that you're describing. If there's evidence, whether they know exactly every single move or part or bolt or whatever it is, it's the process that they're using, or at least that they have the fundamentals.
Right.
What you want to discover is this a job or is this their career?
Yeah, there you go.
A person that has a job, clocks in, does their thing. Oh, man, I can't wait till lunchtime. Or, you know what? I forgot this part. I forgot that part. I forgot this. I forgot that. A person that has a career, they're a craftsman.
Yeah.
They want to make sure they have pride in that product that leaves out your door, that make sure it's 100%, and they put their name on it. If they have a comeback, they call you the next day and dude, I couldn't sleep last night.
Yeah.
Yeah, they clean those mating surfaces.
Right.
They didn't reuse the bad bolts. And they know to ask for those things. It's like if you're going to do a carrier bearing, you get a strap kit for your U joints because because that's what keeps the job together. One bad bolt can just wreck your whole day.
So those are the things that, yeah, exactly that. It's just, those are the things that I look at when we interview people, when you're talking to people, is that the main point is this: are you just passing through here? Or is this your career?
Yeah.
Is this what you want? You're a craftsman? Or you're just, dude, my mom might kick me out of the house she'll kick me out of the house if I don't get a job. So I got this job. You know what I mean? So it's like, we don't need those people.
Those are the kind of people that can flip a small company upside down and just really
go broke real quick.
Yep.
That's interesting. I mean, we could do 2 webinars on labor, right? So many more things we want to hear about related to this, but we'll move on and hit a couple other topics. There were a lot of questions around driving new business, right? So not going to ask for any secret sauce for what are your exact tactics to drive new business, but as you're thinking about what are ways that people can try to drive sales, I mean, any kind of high level advice you would give to people on that? Is it hiring salesmen that are specifically business development related? Is it expecting your technicians to upsell or your service writers to upsell? Any advice that you'd offer to newer shop owners?
I think on that, it's a team effort. Mm-hmm. So from when the customers, so the best marketing or advertising you can have is answer the phone correctly when someone calls you.
Yeah. Because
marketing starts from the minute the customer answers the phone. Marketing starts the minute they walk in your building. Marketing's how clean your restroom is. Marketing is how polite your people are, how they're dressed, how they display. So we're constantly marketing to our customer from the minute the phone rings. I always, talk to my employees on how you can tell when someone's smiling over the phone. Your tone changes, right? And so that's something that we're constantly working on, right? But we have salesmen. We have 2 salesmen here, salesmen in each area, and that's part of it. That's not everything. Just like you have so many different, you would say your company, you guys market on Facebook and Instagram. You have outside salesmen. So there's different. You got to have different baits, right, to fish. That's what I call it. We're fishing for customers. So you got to have your online presence. I use Dieselmatics on both locations.
That's right. You're Dieselmatic.
Oh yeah, both locations.
And it's driving traffic, right?
It is. It works. That stuff works. It works.
That was not a leading question.
It works. You said I'm going to get 5 months free, right? No, I'm just joking. That was a joke. But no, we use Dieselmatics, and they do a good job for us. And they screw up too. They screw up sometimes. But the cool part is that you call them up, say, "Hey man, check it out. I got this problem. You guys screwed up in this. No problem. We fix it." We're all humans. You got to be a little bit forgiving with that. So you got to remember that these customers you have, they're human. You know what I mean? They have emotions. They have constraints. They have disciplines themselves. They have people they got to answer to. So obviously, our job as a service provider for repairs for fleets is to make their job easier. So if you're easy to do business with, you don't worry about work. You'll be fine. If you're easy to do work, you're gonna get tons of work. But marketing, we do online, we do outside salesmen, we do mailers, we do all kinds of stuff. Yeah. We do different events. We do a lot. We do everything. There's nothing that we don't do.
Jennifer, anything different from your experience?
Only that I'm just starting with Dieselmatics, so we're in our process right now. We've done our photo shoots, and they're working on the back end of it, and I think in the next couple of weeks, of course, we'll be getting the design and everything up, to review, and so that and. This has been a long project, so I think that having we've only been in business 4 years, and we've had 4 website companies in that time.
4 websites.
Yeah, so
oh my goodness.
Website.
It's your presence. You're worried. It's your presence. It's who you are as a
business,
business,
so
right?
Your website, even if you're not marketing on your website, if you're marketing another way, like mailers, which my husband manages all of our sales and marketing. So he did mailers during COVID. He went back to mailers. Handwritten notes on the notepad. You put the portfolio in there, and he put it in a little vanilla envelope, and he'd mail it out. And so when customers would call in, they'd say, "I'm on your website," and then I got this mailer on my desk. And so really, was it the mailer? Was it the website? I think the website, if you have a really good, well-presented, professional website, it gives validity to what they're holding in their hands. And so, we're just now getting to the day and age where, people are comfortable with you making face-to-face, and I think that face-to-face human presence of, somebody coming in and, because everybody has a problem all the time. And if you can come in and give them a solution to a problem they're having immediately at the moment, you got them. So, Henry goes out to and meets with a customer, or a sales guy goes out to meet with a customer, and they have, we got this, we've got a guy, we've got a mechanic, but they'll have a truck somewhere, sitting somewhere, and it'll have this problem. And if you can find a solution for that problem, you got them. So sometimes, they talk about preventative maintenance and all these programs, and people have the worst thing they have trouble with is planning, because they're so strapped for time. Everybody's so strapped for time. They don't have time for this. They don't have time for that. So you're always going to hook them in some sort of disaster, and you save them from the disaster, and then you build a relationship and you get the business. So that connection that you make with your customers is as well with your employees, I think is important. So yes. So Dieselmatics, I love the fact that they know trucks, they know truck repair, and they have the ability to make you look, they can make anybody look like a legitimate truck repair shop, even if they're not. Just with the knowledge and the skill set that they have, and so that's cool, and that's all handled by them, and it's one thing to take off the table and give to somebody. It's hard to give up pieces of your business to somebody else and entrust them with the fact that they're going to take care of you like you want your business to be taken care of. So, and I feel like we have that relationship with Dieselmatic, and this is not a plug, I'm sorry. But so that I think is one piece, along with the direct personal communication that you take. Then everybody looks on the web, everybody checks you on the web, they Google you or they whatever. And if you have a good online presence, then that validates what they have right in front of them. And I think it takes the two to build that reputation and build that relationship.
I also noticed you both have branding. We're all wearing branding, and we were talking about the orange, but I think that having a good recognizable logo that's, we were chatting just before the webinar, and the effort you're putting into the design and the effort you're putting into, like shirts and stuff, I feel like it's super critical and also overlooked. Sometimes we'll see some interesting names of shops, and it's like, ugh, could you imagine that going upstairs to get paid, right? And it's almost like the grittier comments are, just let's make this crazy name so we stand out. And it's almost a little bit of the opposite.
It's a visual.
Yeah.
Everybody knows this is like our full name barely fits in there. Inland Empire Fleet Maintenance. But hey, IE Fleet's here.
There you go.
Or IE Fleet.
And do you have customers running around in those shirts? Do you give them out to people?
Honestly, we don't, because sometimes, honestly, that's something that we what's it called? I think we're falling short on. That's why I brought my notepad, because any conversation you're gonna pick up nuggets, right?
Yeah.
So that's something that we should be making more hats and stuff like that. I did it before, like in Ontario. We're in California. We did quite a bit of it. I mean, we'd do probably like, I don't know, maybe $5,000 a year, just give out hats and T-shirts. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't see much.
Yeah.
I didn't see much return on that investment. Maybe mainly the fleet customers that we had, they want them, the drivers. Hey, give me a hat, give me a shirt, and that kind of saves you sometimes, I guess. It's like, hey, you guys screwed up on this, man, but don't worry, just fix it for me.
Well, that's your brand. They're recognizing your brand. It's like we're Harley. Like, my dad had the Harley Davidson on his arm, tattooed. It was such a brand that meant something.
Yeah.
And so, but
I look at it as partially free advertising, because
exactly.
you pay for the shirt, but then you give it to somebody, they wear it.
Hey, what's that?
Sticking
Elite.
yourself out there,
Yeah.
No matter how big you guys still gonna learn some stuff. So I'm writing my stuff down here.
Oh, believe me, I have like the secret recorder in here. I've been listening to everything you say.
We'll make this recording available to everyone as well. Yeah, I think we'd be remiss if we did not have a question or topic to get some input on just the state of the economy. Right? Interest rates continue to go up. Prices, are maybe starting to level out, depending on your perspective. But we'd love to hear from each of you just what you think we're kind of heading into. Anything we can do to start to prepare if we haven't been doing things already. But any thoughts on the state of the economy?
I think it's very. I think we're living in a fake economy. To be honest with you, there's a lot of money that was given out, right? What do they say? 40% of the money that's out right now got printed out in the last couple of years, right? So there's a lot of fake millionaires. There's a lot of fake people that got a lot of fake money. I think that obviously inflation is crazy. I'm looking at that like with our labor. I mean, we had a 10% raise on our labor, and we raised all of our wages throughout the whole companies for everybody, because you're starting to see how the economy is affecting. You don't think about it sometimes. It sounds selfish, but thank God, I'm in a good position. My family's in a good position, but you don't realize that your employees, what you're paying them, that money doesn't go as far as it was before. So you're having to increase their pays, make up some bonus programs or something to get more money in it. Where do I see the economy headed? I mean, we're it's scary. I mean, not just economy, what's happening to our country right now. I mean, entrepreneurship might be gone with what's going on with the money, the digital currency. I mean, I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't know if I'm going to go into a rabbit hole here, but it's scary times, man. When you see the economy with the world economy, with like all the countries that are lining up, how's that going to affect the dollar? Is the dollar going to go far enough? That puts uncertainty, right? So a lot of people or a lot of companies are contracting and say, hey, man, this is kind of weird. Do I really want to spend that money right now?
And are you seeing that impact the business? I mean, do you see
I
manifest itself in the shop?
I see my average RO has dropped,
Really?
but my truck count has gone up. So in other words, we're doing a little bit more work for the amount of, at least in my businesses, for the amount of customers we have. But I think, and it's weird because in 1 month you're killing it. Next month you're like, oh, it's a little bit weird. But it depends on, I guess, people are not listening to the news anymore, I think. And that's something very important because you get influenced by that. And then you get influenced by that. You don't want to spend the money. You don't want to do this. You don't want to do that. You contract. And it's all emotions, really, is what it is. That's kind of how I see it. I don't know how, I don't have a crystal ball. I'm not in the stock market. I'm not none of that stuff. I stay focused on my lane. But I think most of the people that are on here are business owners. My best advice to you is turn off the noise. Turn off the damn news. Turn off all that crap. Focus on your business. Focus on your people. Focus on your customer. Because wherever you take your focus off, it's like being on the phone when you're driving. I was literally on the phone with a buddy of mine from he has a couple shops in Oklahoma. And we're talking about focus, right? And I'm on the phone looking at my text, trying to find out the address to get here. And thank God for the auto braking on the Dodge pickup. That's not a plug for Dodge either. Or Ram.
But you made it. So that's good.
Focus. You got to be focused on your business. Turn off the noise. Don't listen to none of that stuff. And focus on the stuff you can impact. If you can't impact on these things, don't waste your time because time is so valuable. Yeah. You can be calling customers. You can be creating a relationship with your customers. Instead of watching the news, you can be sending texts out to your employees. You can be doing employee bill. Like I take my guys to Top Golf. We take them bowling. We're in a whole bowling alley. We go bowling. We go golfing. We take them deep sea fishing in Texas. We go here to the lake. So we do a lot of things like that. That's where your focus should be in the business. If you want to grow your business, that's where your focus needs to be in. Turn all that crap off because you have no control over it.
Yeah, not true. Jennifer, anything as you think
Top
about?
Golf is really fun, I have to say. That is
that
a
is a
fun
great
team
concept.
building.
But sort of, as it relates to an impact on the shop or how we can prepare for, maybe any headwinds, anything you would share with folks?
So one of the points you brought up is the fear. And one of the ways that we see that's impacting is that about 75% of our applicants this year have all been guys that have been entrepreneurs, went out on their own, and now either have, they have a wife and a new baby, or they're scared that, that it's going to get harder for them to maintain what they're doing, and they want the comfort of working for a company.
Oh, interesting. We've had a few people do that. We've seen a little bit of that.
That is one of the the things that have we've noticed that this whole kind of situation has affected is there are some fear. People that are working for themselves are scared that they're not going to make it through, and so they're looking for the comfort of working for a company, and not looking for working for a corporation or a big company. They just want to look for something small and, close knit and, where they can, still feel independent, but at the same time feel part of a group, a core group of people. So, and then other than that, and then like we were talking earlier, the inflation, drove people out of business. We lost some customers simply because they had to close their doors because they couldn't afford the triple increase on their leases. People got priced out, and so we've been fortunate on our lease with our company that we had a long-term lease going through this, but at the same time, when you start to see all these spaces that become available now, and you're looking at the prices, and then the prices are through the roof, but they're sitting. People aren't renting them, so. But the companies that are, still here, doing business, that core group of companies, we still have, and we've seen some differences in. We have a fluctuation in RO because different parts of the year represent different things for us. So Off fire season is a high RO for us because of our customer base, but we do different things to try to to create the rate of return on an individual RO versus how many obviously you make more money if on a couple of trucks versus little ROs on 10 or 15 trucks, because those take too much time to turn those around. So there's little things you have to really understand what your shop's capabilities are, and you have to really understand when to say no. That probably one of the biggest lessons that I learned in the first couple of years is when to say no. When something is really not going to be, it's like they're coming to you because nobody else would do it. So you have to look at it and go, is there going to be a return on this? Is this going to garner a relationship, a long-term relationship, or is this a one-off and they're just looking for somebody to just get this really crappy job done, And do I want to take that time? So it's all a balancing act in finding where that investment is going to be and where your rate of return is going to be in customers. So really just I'd say just managing customers, just making sure that you're getting the best bang for your buck.
Just real quick, just something that made me think about also is the economy. It really depends on the state.
That is
Because
true.
there's a big migration going on right now in the country where, some people are leaving from certain states, Now, I'm not just, obviously.
I don't know what you're talking about.
They're leaving from, but it opens it up because it takes less, sometimes it's a good thing for you because maybe competition's moving out, right? It depends, but there's also migration of people. So like Phoenix, here, just, I moved here in 18, and I seen it and it was like, wow, I used to drive to work and it take me 20 minutes. 4 years, man, it's taking me an hour and a half.
Yeah.
You're like, what the heck's going on? So, yeah, there's more business, there's more movement. Same thing, my shop in Austin, it's booming, it's slowing down now. The city's slowing down a little bit, but it's still cranking. You got so much population moving in. So that depends on the market. Really, I don't think everybody is really going to affect it or all states are going to feel it if it does drop or whatever it is. I think every state's going to be a little bit different because there's the migration that's going on that's a little bit, misleading.
Yeah. Good point.
One of the things to factor for California, and if you're a California shop and you want a little extra income, you can sublease rental units, and you could any one of them, U-Haul, Penske, whatever. But one of the things, and we did this for a little time, and it just didn't end up working out for what we were doing at the time. But the one thing that we saw is that rentals coming in to California were cheaper than, if people wanted to move out of California, that cost of that rental was 3 times the cost of people. They gave away rentals for people to move into California, but there was so many people moving out of California that it was triple the cost. And so we were always having pitfalls too, and shortfalls on rental equipment. You had to wait for it to come in from out of state, and it left more than it came in. So
Wow.
that gives you an idea.
Yeah.
So it is real.
It's real.
It's not rumors.
We're in that rabbit hole.
We're going to run up on time. Anything else you want to touch on?
It's been a pleasure having both of you here. I know it takes time out of your day. You're busy. You got businesses to run, people relying on you. We thank you a lot. Thank you very much from the listeners, us, and really appreciate and respect what you're doing, keeping the roads safe, trying to do the right thing, and love hearing about how you're focusing on people. Super.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having us. Appreciate it.
All right, so we'll wrap that up. Thanks everybody for joining us. We'll do the traditional 2 plugs. You guys very unsolicited helped us out with one of them, so we appreciate the dramatic plug. So for anyone who's not a Full Bay customer who joined the webinar, obviously we would love to show you what we've got. Please reach out and we will get back with you. Obviously there's a poll question on the screen, which is, do you want to see a demo? We'd love to give you one. And then finally, we have so many of our customers who have opted in to process payments with us. It's something that we continue to invest in and work to get better at. If you're not processing payments with us, we'd certainly encourage you to check out the Full Bay Payments offering. We can walk you through what we're doing there, and that's a big investment area for us. So we will continue to advance that offering. And otherwise, thanks everybody. Thanks again. We'll look forward to grabbing lunch together here in a little bit, and we'll call that one a day.